We just haven't had the world premiere today of the new trailer for Fall of the Republic. Barmos is making a film called Invisible Empire. And it's amazing research. He's been working on this thing for years. It's coming out early next year. They're going to have the world premiere of that. It's not even on YouTube yet. Coming up next hour here on air at prisonplanet.tv. If you're a member, you'll be able to see the video here for the first time if you're a prisonplanet.tv member. But if you're not, you'll be able to hear, obviously, the audio from it. And then coming up later this evening, you're going to have an article Burmis wrote and the trailer at the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. It will be up in the next 2 hours or so. But world premiere coming up at the bottom of the next hour. So exactly 1 hour from now, or 59 minutes if you want to get technical. We'll play that here. Got a bunch of other news I want to go over. We're going to. I know we have Donna and Bill and Gene and Pat, and I don't want to hang up on these callers. But you were here before we got Dr. Eisenstein on. You can either change your question to him about the flu or the New World Order or eugenics, or call back another day. I'm going to give the number out, 1-800-259-9231. Now, Doctor, you're a humble guy. You're one of the leading experts on this because the government likes to cover up their own studies, their own tests. Big Pharma does, or take the aspartame trials. It killed almost all the rhesus monkeys that they gave it to, but then they use that data by removing the dead monkeys to say, get it approved. You know, they play all sorts of games. You're a leading expert because you have one of the biggest practices in the country. I mean, you're quite the productive person. Not just, do you have a medical examiner's license, or are you a lawyer, or multiple medical degrees? You've got a huge, huge practice of homeschoolers, regular folks, and then you also watch the Amish and know them. Tell folks, finish your point about how the vaccines don't work, and then let's get into just the evidence right there that you see public schools, where some schools, a third of the school, have got neurological disorders, supposedly, or their brains have been rotted by the vaccines and other chemicals. Then meanwhile, the Amish, you don't ever see that. You don't see autism.
That's exactly right. That was, I didn't even really know that one way or the other until Dan Olmsted, who was at the time a senior medical writer for United Press International, he came to Chicago because he heard about our practice. Now, I want to know, Alex, it's not only me. Dr. Rosie, Dr. Shatauer, Dr. Zumhagen, and 20 other doctors who've worked with me over the last 30-plus years. And we've always had a practice that gave vaccine choice to families. And you asked earlier, what's the difference from 35 years ago? Well, 35 years ago, they didn't give 58 vaccines to children in the first couple of years of life. We gave 10 or 12. Still most probably problematic, but the problem wasn't a fraction was today. So Dan Olmsted comes to Chicago. He spends time with our practice and talks to all the doctors, and he said, where is the autism? Show me the autism. I said, I want to know, Alex, I barely knew what autism was. I'd read about it in the textbooks, but that was about it. Never saw a case, And we have been delivering babies at home, and that's mainly what we've done, and we still continue to do it. And we're close to 20,000 babies alone that we've delivered at home. But here's the shift in our practice. In the last 10 or 15 years, as I've become more and more vocal about vaccines, our vaccine rates have gone from 10% of practice to 9% to 5%, where now it's almost non-existent. The only reason we don't become a vaccine-free practice is because my partners have been with me for more than 25 years, who've never vaccinated their children, said to me, Mayor, if we give such a hard line, we're going to lose thousands of people when they come, realize that they don't have to vaccinate their children. And all of a sudden it became obvious it's more than just autism. We have virtually no asthma, virtually no diabetes, virtually no allergies, all these chronic conditions that children today suffer from. And those people who say, there's no real increase in autism, we're just counting different. Well, how do you count all? You said it so well, the neurological problems in school.
Look, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yep.
I don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that when I went to see movies like Dumbo when I was a kid, or I went to take my sister, who's 14 years younger than me, when I was in high school and college, I'd take her. My parents would say, will you come over and babysit next week and take her to a movie? You never saw autistic children. I'm on the Greenbelt. I'm at the mall. I take my kids every few months to a movie. It's like 2 or 3 rows are in there autistic. I mean, they are the schools, and people say, oh, well, that's just false diagnosis. Let me tell you, it's not false diagnosis when you're on the green belt and there's autistic kids running around screaming everywhere, completely out of their minds. I mean, they're under chemical attack. And we've seen autism rates go from, 1 in 25,000 20-something years ago to 1 in 86 now. The Fed's own numbers, I mean, boy.
And that's the most severe case. All this has to be looked at as the same thing, what Dr. Melson said 30 years ago. What's the difference between ADD, ADHD, and autism? Just the spectrum. How severely your brain has been damaged, like Dr. Blaylock said, and that's the only difference. And we saw virtually none of this. But even more impressive may have been when Blue Cross called me. This was about 2-3 years ago, and they said to me, because we also have a small HMO group that we're part of Blue Cross, and they said the asthma rate in their network was 12%. We had 1 child out of 1,000 with asthma, and they have a great definition: 2 emergency room visits in 1 year for any respiratory illness or 1 hospitalization. So you can't say one person's doing one thing, one person's doing another thing. And they wanted to know, Alice, you're going to have to hear this. This is very fascinating. So I go to the meeting there at Blue Cross, and they said to me, Doc, why do you have such low rates? I said, well, we're the best doctors in the world. He says, come on, tell us the truth. So I said, why don't you tell me what you think? Because they have all the records there from all the HMO patients. None of these children are vaccinated. How incredible. That was frightening. That's when I realized that Alex Jones not only is right, not only has had an impact in the country, but this is not conspiracy theory. This is overt now.
Well, that's what's crazy about this. Why would these corporate minions who aren't part of that upper crust of eugenicists, why would anybody want to do this? I mean, I've been on vacation, I've been at the mall, I've been at the grocery store, and you'll see an autistic child, 10 years old in diapers, and I'm not obnoxious about it. I want to know, and I walk over and I say, when did your child become autistic? And they always say,
after a vaccine.
18 months old, 3rd round of shots. He was running around talking, singing. Now he does this, and the child's, and I mean it's and then I read about how when your kid has the convulsion that night, they then send the police to arrest you because they do a CAT scan and see the brain swelling and say you shook your kid's head when you're a medical doctor and have countless others on. Clearly, they know the mercury and the squalene is causing an autoimmune response and making the brain swell. So then they don't just brain damage your kid with a chemical lobotomy. Now they're going to arrest you for it, too.